Hello and welcome, I am cringey, and this is the top 5 visual novels on Steam. Now, a lot of these kind of games have a distinctly awkward-y kind of theme, not unlike most of the games on the top seller list, which have a nudity as a tag. That will give you some kind of indication. But hey, people reading and buying visual novels is better than nothing. It helps to open up the market. Luckily, the ones I have here are only moderately cringy. And without further ado, Number 5. Fault Milestone 1. Enter a world consumed by magic and its dealing. Every warrior worth their salt partakes in their own version or another. Even the smallest, most frail enemies can take out a battlefield with a few choice spells. Relatively uncommon to visual novels is that you aren't the actual center of the story. In fact, you're just an observer, quietly watching as a series of tragic events take place. Starting with the siege of a peaceful nation, your main protagonists are, well, in trouble. A group of young women and their allies attack and slaughter all who stand in their way. They seek to assassinate a princess whose king is away. It's kind of a low blow, but whatever. Guardian protector to the princess and immensely knowledgeable about magic saves her life by teleporting her through a mana line using vector carvate. It's a very confusing terminology, I know. You'll get used to it in the half dozen strange character names. Now stranded in a foreign land, you follow the adventure of a frail princess and her powerful bodyguard. Another upset to the traditional visual novel format is the forsaking of any romance. I really like that decision. They could have easily made the bodyguard the, typical charming manly man, and then have the two become increasingly closer and closer. But they didn't. Play-by-play descriptors make the whole story read like a novel with a few background assets thrown in. And, well, unfortunately, that is pretty much all it is. The actual backgrounds are pretty sparse, giving only the bare minimum of the environment. Character portraits are typical anime pictures with a few different poses with each. It's nothing special, it's relatively well drawn, but nothing special. Fitting music in the background helps give scenes a much needed oomph. I just feel like the game doesn't have anything amazing to show or tell. This is the kind of visual novel that fills up a space, or a library filler, only just above average. Number 4. Tofu Boyfriend. Yes, probably one of the most famous visual novels on the Steam market. You are a human going to school with birds. Yes, birds. Evidently, there is a school in Japan for gifted wing creatures, and you, a human, attend. I've never been to Japan, so I can't say for a fact that there isn't a school for birds. What even is this, though? Anyway, there are a multitude of characters with unique personalities and even their own character portraits. And guess what? Those portraits are birds. Except when it's not. Actual photographs with a black outline to hide the cutout. The whole thing's just so bizarre. Why birds? Why not cats? You know what? I bet you there will be one with cats sooner or later. Similar to something akin to the Persona series, you live in the high school life, going to classes and raising stats and interacting with other characters of that residence, like the math teacher in math class. Every day you go home to your cave? Why a cave? This game just screams gimmick, but they do pull it off quite well. The most striking aspect are the wonderful backgrounds. They are so good, they could be desktop backgrounds. Soft, colorful, and beautifully drawn stills give life to an otherwise dull writing. Every birdie fills their archetype without fail. You can accurately guess how each character is going to act initially and for the rest of the game. The math teacher has a defining characteristic such as sleeping, and every interaction with him, he is sleeping. Weirder still, a few choice characters have a human portrait. Why? Well, except for the one bird who has a bird portrait, which made me literally laugh out loud. It was stupid and hilarious. Even though the archetypes are predictable, it is rather entertaining. It's slice of life, so nothing heavy, no goals or anything really, just an exploration of these texts and characters. Gimmicky? Absolutely. This is just as much YouTuber bait as something like Goat Simulator is, but does that mean it's a bad game? Not at all. The presentation and writing in general is pretty good. It's not the best visual novel ever, but hey, it's not bad. Number 3, Fault Milestone 2 Side Above. Now, I'm sure it's weird to have the two games of the same series on one list, but I did find that these are pretty major titles, and they're both pretty solid. And you know, the pickings are pretty slim. But anyway, Fault Milestone 2 is better in every way than Fault Milestone 1. Thankfully, the core concept was pretty cool, but the execution was a bit on the bland side. Here, the overall presentation and even the writing has been turned up a couple notches. Most notably, characters fill themselves out more, they have more personality. Also, the Emperor Syndrome on the princess is a real treat. It's nice to see someone be a badass. In addition, there are newly animated sequences. Like, for example, early on in the game, a strange but creative event happens where the game closes itself and you think it's crashed or something, but it starts back up pretty soon after and it's back on the title screen. But something is different. It has the main antagonist on it and it says undo. Undo. What's that mean? You press it and whoosh, you go back to before when the witch destroyed like freaking everything. It really is spectacular to witness a visual novel doing something so different and so exciting. Character portraits unfortunately have stayed the same. A rather weak Link now with everything else getting such a nice upgrade. Even the music is better. Early on you'll be rocking to some heavy metal which gives the scenes a nice rough, catastrophic feel. Along with that, there are several more animated sequences and full screen stills to give the scenes more life. This series may not have the greatest lore or writing in general, but it is a great roller coaster adventure. Number 2, Amnesia Memories. Okay, so I came into this thinking I was getting some kind of horror experience, you know, like Amnesia: The Dark Descent, Amnesia Memories, sounds like a likely sequel. Well, that's not the case. You are actually a young female adult who has lost all your memories, and then this anime bug thing has it invaded your brain, pushing all the memories out. Rude. This bug thing, Orion, needs to get out and is willing to help you achieve that. Well, I mean, of course. Through the course of the game, he'll be the narrator, speaking or thinking in your place. So he doesn't actually speak to the other characters, but anyway. You are an empty shell. I know there's something to be said about the silent protagonist, but this is just a whole nother level. I don't feel like a character participating in the world, more like an observer with an occasional choice. So you're given the choice of entering a parallel dimension world, pairing you up with a different boy per dimension. And there are a lot of boys hanging around you like all the time. It's a bit strange in these kind of games, really. Like, don't you have any female friends? Anyway, you do all the things college girls do these days, like meet up with friends, date boys, do drugs, work jobs, and go to school, and whatever else you need to do to get your memories back and return to normal. This game is super freaking dense with text. Even the beginning part took 20 minutes just to get going. And then soon after, it's another huge chunk of burrowing through loads of text just to make small gains in actual overall story arc material. It is well written, however, a bit formal and more wordy than necessary, but not bad. Accompanying all the text is voiceover work. Granted, it's in Japanese, so it's mostly unrecognizable by us English speakers, but still, it's nice to have something there. I watch my anime with subtitles anyway. Though it should be noted that the voice acting is actually just not that hot. Like with a lot of anime, it's just hit or miss. And here, kinda misses. Characters don't sound like they should. Like the bug fairy Orion, for example, is just an annoying pipsqueak that sounds like a plush toy or a young girl or something, instead of a mythological creature. Character portraits are fairly well done. They fall into the trap of that cheapy vampire style manga with super skinny dudes and sharp hair and hyper stylish looks. Lots and lots of layers and leather, and you gotta have that leather. There are also a lot of different poses for these characters, so you don't have to see the same one every time. But more often than not, the poses look weird and forced. Like one character in particular was just chilling and chatting and his arms are way out like he wants to fight somebody. It's weird. Backgrounds don't get the same treatment. You get the most basic environment you can think of with very plain palette. That probably saved them some time so they can just cycle through those backgrounds through the different times a day. Well, that's pretty much it. It looks pretty great. The writing's okay. It's a lot of dense material to work through, which is great for some, bland for others. It is a solid visual novel. Number 1, Tokyo School Life. As with all of these lists, it seems like the distance between the first game and the other 4 are ginormous, and here, that is absolutely the case. This is the game I was absolutely looking for when I made this list. Tokyo's school life is so awesome in every way. For starters, the character portraits are fantastic. I don't know the exact details, but it looks like gorgeously drawn 2D assets animated with a little clever trickery to give the illusion of 3D. It's so refreshing to see more than just a simple still frame. Instead, get the constant idle information and give the game a feeling of liveliness. Granted, there are only 3 characters getting this treatment, but I'd rather have a few great portraits than a whole bunch of poorly done ones. In addition to being well drawn and animated and having several costumes, they have a plethora of idle animations, motions, reaction, and whatever else, you name it. What a treat this feature is. Something I desperately hope catches on to the masses. That is, more so than freaking cutouts of photography pigeons. Anyway, the actual text follows suit of being filled with personality. It's a bit amateur anime with archetypal characters and the like, but at the very least I'm clinging to most words. You are the narrator, a male from America staying in Japan with 3 women. You go to a high school and stay in a dorm with those 3 women. Talk about getting lucky, huh? For 2 whole months, you get to interact with these chicks on a daily basis, getting to know, and maybe some other stuff. Yeah, the whole situation and background writing is pretty, weebo. Literally 5 minutes into playing, you run into a well-endowed girl, one of which you're staying with, and you just so happen to, grope her, you perv. Once you get to school, oh hey, wow, what a coincidence. That girl with that character portrait in the early part of the game is the same girl you're gonna meet here and where you live. Great start. Otherwise, the whole presentation and production value is top notch. It is a really fantastic, visually spectacular adventure of living a Japan fantasy. Once again, I have been cringey. This has been the top 5 visual novels on Steam. Thanks for watching.